I'm a mental health therapist. My name is Mallory Grimste, and in today's video, I'm going to be responding to your questions and comments. You may have noticed a few weeks ago, I did post getting a little more feedback from you guys about what sort of videos that you wanted in 2023 and beyond. And thank you to everybody who did respond either directly or indirectly, publicly or privately. I really appreciate your feedback and input. In that message, I did mention that 2022 was a little messy for me, and I did get a little more disorganized than typical. So I've been trying to figure out a way to stay on top of your video requests and keep the ball rolling and not get so behind again. And one of the things that I realized that I could do is, rather than spending time responding to each of your comments individually and hoping that you see them, I can make a video. And so that is what I'm doing today. Thank you all. I'm so grateful for you. Please continue to share any helpful feedback or questions that you have in the comments. All right, so both of these comments are on the separation anxiety tips for teens video. This first one says, I'm 30 and I have separation anxiety. If I stay a month with someone and they want to leave, or my partner, I'm so scared. I never want to be alone. I totally feel that. I think that a lot of times we're under the misconception that separation anxiety is only for young children, toddlers, school age, that sort of a thing, because those are the things that have been talked about the most. There's also a ton of content and videos out there about separation anxiety in dogs, which I find very interesting. There's not a lot out there for people, and we get separation anxiety too. When we are feeling connected with somebody, we want to spend our time and energy and focus with them as well, especially if you are somebody who has what's called an anxious attachment style. When it comes to attachment styles, one of the things that is really cool that they have found in more recent research is that your attachment styles can adapt and change based on your partner's attachment style and that dynamic within the relationship. And the goal of any attachment style is to create security within the relationship and within ourselves. So when you can create what's called a secure base within yourself, that's usually what we call self-esteem or self-confidence, and within the relationship. So that idea that even though I can't physically be with or see or talk to this person, I do still feel connected and secure with them. That is a secure base. So a few ways that you can do this is with transitional objects. So something like a photo, a letter, a bracelet, something physical and tangible, either a symbol or something that you can take and hold with you as a reminder of that connection with that person, can be really useful and helpful. If you have any ideas on what a transitional object could be for this person, or one that works for you in your relationship, drop them in the comments. It can be really useful and helpful for others. It's really cool to see you guys helping each other in the comments and beyond. It really does make my heart sing. So thank you for that. All right, so this next comment is also from this video, and it says, I have this with my mom every time she leaves the house, just for a few hours, and my brothers are here. I start crying and want her home immediately. Yes, I would absolutely, reiterate trying to create some sort of either a check-in process with them or some sort of tangible, physical, transitional object that's representative of that connection and that relationship. Is there something that reminds you of that connection and relationship with your mother? If not, you can create something together with each other. Friendship bracelets are a great concept for this that you can make with each other, or even having a note that you guys carry around, or even pulling up past photos or text messages that I would save or screenshot. Those are all really great ways to maintain that feeling of connection when you're not physically together. Oh, you know what? I'm actually glad I haven't responded to this one yet, because I get this a lot. This is on my very old video. Oh my goodness, it's like a little embarrassing, like how bad I was at editing back then. Even if you think you're bad at something, still put that good information out there, because it will help. This is from the video, 6 must-know signs of self-harm in teenagers. This is also when I was trying to be very professional and not myself. I still am myself. Who else is watching this as a self-harming teen just to find ways to dodge the questions? And they have like a little sweat face emoji. I'm really, really glad that that video found you if you are a self-harming teen. That video was there to help other people support you and help you in your healing journey. When it comes to self-harm, I mean, harm is in the description, and so, you know, when it comes to safety, we take that really seriously. It does like hurt my heart a little bit that you're wanting to dodge those questions. Though I can appreciate that there's probably certain scenarios and situations where it would make sense that like it's none of their business. Sometimes people are very well intentioned, but don't have a really good understanding or boundaries when it comes to personal struggles like this. And so you want to make sure that you're sharing these things with a helpful, supportive, safe adult. So that could be a mental health therapist. It could be a guidance counselor. It could be a parent, not always. It's somebody who is a safe, responsible adult. Now, I want to be clear, just because somebody is age 18 or above, that's what we've quantified or qualified as an adult status here in the United States of America, at least from legal perspective. Just because somebody is legally defined as an adult does not necessarily make them safe or responsible. I think that we know this. So you want to look for evidence that they have shown a capacity, hopefully repeatedly in different circumstances, where they can be trusted, that they have your best interests at heart, and that they know the resources and have the skills to deal with some of these topics. If you don't have anybody in your direct area, I highly recommend making use of any of the crisis lines that exist in the United States of America. We're very fortunate that we have the crisis text line that you can text 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 741-741. There are a ton of other info lines and crisis support lines. Some are anonymous, some are not. I'm not going to go through all of them here. You can do your own research. And YouTube has actually created a really nice list by most countries. I'm sure there are countries that are not listed on there, and I wish I could be a resource for all of you all, but unfortunately I am based here in Connecticut in the United States of America, and so I'm most familiar with this area. I would definitely make use of one of those crisis supports to navigate how to get help or get those situations. If you are dodging those questions out of shame or embarrassment or for fear that they may stop you, I would get curious about that. Like, what is it about this? But if it's something about like, oh, I'm not really sure how to talk about this, I have several videos on these topics. I have videos on how to tell your therapist that you're feeling suicidal. I have a video on how to talk to your parents about self-harm and suicidal thoughts. I have videos on should you cover your self-harm scars and how to talk about that with others, or put a boundary in place if it is something that you're not comfortable with or it's not appropriate to talk about in that scenario. So definitely make sure to check out those videos. I'll leave the links to those in the description below if you want to check any of those out. Okay, so this was a community post question that we shared. What are some struggles that you've been experiencing this year? This person said, I struggle mainly my anxiety and depression. I've also been struggling with my OCD, dyslexia, and my ADHD. I have to say, I'm really proud of you for allowing yourself to be open and sharing those struggles. I think a lot of people are struggling more and more in these different areas. I would encourage you to be careful about not necessarily defining struggles based on diagnosis. Diagnosing, I have a lot of strong thoughts and feelings on what qualifies as a diagnosis and why and how that came to be. I'll probably save that rambling for another video at another time. Diagnosing is mainly helpful when it comes to insurance reimbursement and medication prescribing. That being said, well, usually when I ask about like struggles or things like that, I want to know specifically for you, like personally for you, what is the main struggle for you? So within those categories or within those dynamics, you know, what is that struggle and how can I be useful or helpful in helping you improve in those areas or overcome those challenges to the best of both of our capabilities. I really try to steer clear of, in my work as a therapist, focusing too much on the diagnosis. I think it is helpful and useful, and it can feel very validating to be like, oh my gosh, this is what it is. It's not me, it's my diagnosis, right? Or how this diagnosis has presented. Though I would also encourage you to remember that, there are definitely some diagnoses that are more chronic or long-term, just like in the medical, well, therapy and mental health is medical, but I mean in the physical medical world, like with autoimmune conditions, most of the time those diagnoses don't necessarily go away. You just kind of learn to adapt and adjust to the symptoms and treat the symptoms as they occur or get better, hopefully. Same thing when it comes to mental health conditions. Just because you are diagnosed with the flu, because you have all the symptoms for a flu, it doesn't mean that you have the flu for the rest of your life forever, we hope. Most times with treatment and intervention and rest and recovery, you can recover from the flu, and that diagnosis drops off of your chart as an active diagnosis at that time. So the same can be true when it comes to mental health diagnoses. So just because you meet criteria or have the symptom presentation for a depressive episode or depressive condition does not mean that you will always qualify for that diagnosis or condition. Now, the struggles may exist and they may be something that you adapt to and adjust to over time. I would say focus on that. So how is this impacting me personally right now? Not necessarily what the diagnosis is, but what the challenge is within that diagnosis. And that could help guide you and keep you focused on ways that you can potentially either extend some self-compassion and kindness for your experience. Some of this is related to our environmental experience and it's not always in our control. Like I think many people experience depressed moods or potentially depressed episodes during the lockdown portions of the pandemic. I don't know that many of us chose that life, right? Sometimes it's outwardly created and we can make adjustments that are within our control. Sometimes it is more of an internal experience and process. Either way, engaging with a mental health therapist or a licensed provider who can specialize and help in these areas can be really healthy and healing. It's one of the reasons that I really, really love group therapy for these dynamics. We know that healthy connections and repeated connections over and over again can be really meaningful and healing over time. I'm partial to group therapy. I think y'all know that. But individual counseling can be useful too. Or even just making healthy changes in our lifestyle can be useful and healthy. I happen to be a mental health therapist, so I talk about how mental health therapy can be useful and helpful a lot. But I also know it's not the only path to healing and overcoming a lot of these struggles. So just keep that in mind. There's lots of different paths to the same outcome that you're looking for. All right, so this is a comment, what therapist asks at your first appointment. And then there's another one from the video, starting therapy, what teens can expect. By the way, I'm loving how many people are starting therapy in 2023. Y'all rock, it's awesome. Okay, so this person said, my mom said that it might be a good idea if I would like to go to a doctor or therapy. Of course, there was some talking between me and my mom, and I think that's why she got this thought of me going to the doctor or therapy. Keep in mind, I'm from Denmark. I live in Denmark. Hey, Denmark. Cool that we've gotten to Denmark, global. Okay, so I just don't really know what it's like going to the doctor or therapy and talking about these things. I think it's super, super scary to talk about myself, and that's where my confidence slowed down because I don't know if I should go or not, but your channel helps so much. Oh, thank you. But there are some things that I really can't find the answer to, and I'm scared to ask my parents or the closest. And since my profile is private, I want to ask you a few questions. Might be a little weird, but it's something I really care and took my courage to talk about. And now I just want to ask these questions as if it was at the therapy or doctor, and you answer if you have the time. Thank you for asking questions. I will just put a disclaimer out there that social media is not therapy. We cannot treat this as therapy. I can provide general information or what's called psychoeducation, but I cannot give direct counseling or advice. Legally and ethically, I would get into a ton of trouble. Plus, from a therapeutic perspective, if we don't have a working relationship, it's a little complicated to consider me your therapist. There's a whole process if you are interested in becoming a therapy client. I am restricted by licensing laws. Right now, my license is valid for people that are physically in the states of Connecticut and New York. Those are the only 2 locations. I would love to see people in a variety of different areas and places, but this is the way that the licensing laws work here in the United States of America, and country to country it's a little bit different. If you want to work with me in a different capacity, I do have the Coping Skills Crash Course, which is a guided self-help program to help you ramp that up. I'll leave the link in the description. You can definitely check that out. But in terms of these questions, if the therapist or doctor asks me something and I'm scared to say, is it a rude thing to do? Absolutely not. You know, as a mental health therapist and as a doctor, we know that these are uncomfortable topics for many people to talk about. Hopefully somebody who is confident in their capabilities and has experience in this world would understand that and appreciate and respect that you might not be ready to talk about everything in one session. I know this. I think a lot of my colleagues know this. That being said, every therapist and every doctor is a person and an individual, and they all have their own strengths and capacities for this sort of thing. If they're finding that they can't get enough information to get a complete assessment and they have safety concerns, they may refer you to an emergency evaluation where somebody who's a little more skilled and confident in crisis assessment can make sure that you are safe to be at home. That's the only thing that I would consider. Yeah. The second thing is, I'm scared if I cry. I know it may be normal to cry when you're at the doctor or the therapist, but it's just I have it really hard talking to strangers about myself. And then when we talk, it just makes me cry if I'm in a situation where I'm about to cry and I don't want to. What should I do? I am a stress crier myself. I get this. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my heart. I think many people cry when they are stressed out or they feel overwhelmed or emotional. Sometimes when I'm feeling validated and respected, that brings up a surge of emotions and I cry at that. My friends know I'm a crier. I will just put out there, as a mental health therapist, we expect crying. We know that crying is part of the process. We're not here to judge or make you feel uncomfortable. If you need a moment, if you need a pause, we get that too. If you're in the office, most therapists will have plenty of tissues handy. You can't see behind right now, but I have 1, 2, and then I know I have another box back there. 3, 4 different tissue boxes just in this room alone. We get it. We are prepared. Some ways that you can manage and control crying: take a pause and to take a sip of water. That's my go-to strategy. There's something about that just kind of pauses it a little bit. Also, if talking while crying is something that makes it worse, you can literally put a hand up to indicate you need a pause. You can also let the person know either before or at the start of the appointment that this is something that you struggle with, and so you might need to stop from time to time. That's quite all right. And hopefully that this therapist or doctor can be helpful in giving you some additional coping strategies to manage that. And over time, it does get easier. I'm proof. I don't break down crying every single time I have an emotion anymore. There was a point. My mom will tell you, and my sisters, but it does get better. And as you get more confident in your strategies and comfortable talking and sharing this emotional load, it can get better. And then somebody else had shared also, they have their first appointment in about 2 weeks. Oh, this comment was actually from 12 days ago when I'm filming this. So you may have your first appointment already. Yay, it's exciting. I've tried therapy in the past, but it has never gone anywhere because my mother won't let me talk about the things I need to talk about. Do you have any advice on how I can deal with this? Apparently she has to be present for the first few sessions and I feel it won't go anywhere again because I won't be able to open up. Yes, so every therapist has their own onboarding process or their client assessment process. For myself, I actually do include parents if you are under 18 in that first session, and potentially the second session too, depending on how that goes. And I'm very upfront from the beginning of how I work with families and parents. If you are unclear about that, I would ask the therapist directly about that. Most therapists will have a portion of the session where you are separate from your parents so that they can get your honest, real insight and feedback. It's important that you consider that unless there is a safety risk present, your therapist should keep your conversations private and confidential and keep your parents informed on what's called a need to know basis. So most therapists who work with the under 18 crowd, like myself, will be very honest and open with you about what we consider a need to know basis. Myself, personally, as a therapist, one of the ways that I do this is I literally have a conversation, if I can, with the teen that I'm working with about what it is that I'd like to share with their parents, how I would like to go about that, and I often give them an opportunity to be part of that conversation too. So those are some things to kind of consider. I'm not really sure what you mean about like your mom won't let you talk about things. I think maybe what you're trying to say is that, you know, I don't want to like put words or like assume things, of course, but the thing that comes to mind is perhaps there are some consequences of sharing things if it does get back home. And so I want to honor and respect that sometimes when we are still relying and dependent on our parents and our families, that some of the work that we know will be most meaningful in healing cannot be done during that time, because we do need to maintain that safety and that relationship with our parents at that time and place. As an adult, hopefully you develop more autonomy and independence so that you can have those safe explorations. Some of the work that you might be doing as a teenager, if you are in a situation like that, is navigating how to still maintain and keep those healthy relationships or healthy enough relationships with the people who support us and provide us our safety, our shelter, our therapy, that sort of a thing, in order to get to that next phase of life. One other thing that I would consider though is that I might stay open to the idea that your parents might have one goal in mind for therapy and you might have a different goal in mind for therapy. The fact that your parent is bringing you and spending time taking you and paying for therapy indicates to me that even if they have an idea of the path, they do have your best interests at heart. So I would just keep that in the back of your head a little bit and like kind of give them a benefit of a doubt. And that might be something worth working with your therapist on once you get to that point. So hang in there through those first few sessions. If you're finding that, you know, you can't fully open up right away, that's normal. We expect that. Good luck. I hope that you have a good start to your therapy journey with this new therapist. I'm so excited. Okay, so this was actually like a little exchange on here that somebody was waiting for the time to hit, and then they have their first ever therapy session. Woo! I'm so proud of you. I'm so scared about how it's going to go, but this video really helped. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Somebody followed up and asked, you know, about how it was. They shared that it was emotional, but definitely not as bad as they thought it was. That's usually how it goes. We tend to anticipate the worst case. That does help to prepare us and to help us cope ahead with worst case outcomes. That usually it may be uncomfortable, but not that uncomfortable. And then they said, I'm starting therapy soon and it's their first time too. They just wanted some insight. The first session will be the hardest, or at least that's how it was for me. I agree. Starting is probably where you are feeling most vulnerable and on edge. There's a lot of hope that, oh, will this be the person and the therapy and the help that I need? Will they like me? Will they understand and get me? Will they have the strategy to help me through this process? There's a lot that goes into that. I also know from personal experience as a professional and as a human being who has also been on the other side of the couch too, it takes a lot to build up that courage to show up to that first appointment. It is super, super scary. It feels very risky, and it is. You really are starting probably one of the most intimate, vulnerable relationships that you could ever have. And in a capacity where it's really geared towards talking about things that make us feel ashamed or incapable or not great about ourselves or our circumstances. I know at least here in the United States of America, we really pride ourselves on like the whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality, which is this idea of being independent, doing it yourself, going it alone, and that's totally unrealistic. Oh, and making it picture perfect. Totally unrealistic. So I'm really, really proud of you both for starting this journey and helping each other out. I love seeing these exchanges in the comments, so thank you. All right, this person is 26. They have separation anxiety and they feel like they'll do anything to be with them, move countries. I'm afraid of losing them, but they don't feel much about me so much. In fact, they may run away knowing how my mind works. I can't even move abroad to study. Oh, I feel that. I think when we feel connected and secure with somebody, it's like, oh man, I do not want to let this go. There is this concept though called grasping. It comes from a lot of Eastern philosophies and religious practices. And the idea is, and we talk about this a lot in DBT or dialectical behavior therapy as well, which pulls a lot from these practices and the Western medical model, which kind of like the blending of the two. And so this idea of grasping is sometimes when we hold on too tight to something, it can actually restrict us. So if you are holding on to something and you are grasping and you try to pick up something else, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to expand. You might be able to like pick up like a few more things, but it's going to be difficult. However, even if you loosen your grasp a little bit, you'll have a little bit more room in order to let more in. And so this is an important concept when it comes to, let me just finish this on and then I'll change that light. This is an important concept when it comes to relationships as well. If you are holding on to this one person, this one relationship so strongly, you may be limiting how many other good experiences and relationships and dynamics are possible as well. All right, I'm gonna change that light. I think that this is a good spot to stop for this video. I'm gonna be doing a part 2 for this as well. I think this is a lot of information in one video. So let me know if you are enjoying this sort of video topics and process with a like in the comments, and thanks for watching.